So next up, we're going to be unwrapping the ripper at the back of the bulldozer. This is quite a hefty part with a lot of separate areas to it. So let's get started. First, I'm going to do the biggest parts first. I'm going to have this the main part at the back that holds the ripper, which consists of quite a few separate parts. So again, we're starting off with a flatten on all of them, and just going over them, selecting these because these shouldn't be separated. They should be one single piece because it's a continuous mesh. And I'm thinking here, I'm probably going to do a planar map on them, making sure to turn normalize off. Do a planar map, and then select these areas. Do another planar map, select those at the top. And again, do a planar map. And then I'll just stitch them in, because that's probably the easiest way to do it. So we have that. I'm just going to run a relax on it to make sure that I reduce the distortion a bit. And that's it for that little part. Let's see for the next ones. I'm going to go for the main areas first. So I'll move this out a bit. That one should sit over there. And then the top part here, these should all really be attached. I'm just going to select those, hit unfold, and we've got this unfolded as a single piece. Then there's a polygon in the center we're going to grab as well. Just rotate it around so it fits in there. And these inside parts, they're not very visible, and I'm going to have them share some UV space by just selecting them at the same time and then doing a projection that projects them on top of each other. So this can fit in there. Do have to move these pieces out a bit so we don't have anything overlaying. Also, when you're working with things stacked on top of each other, you got to remember to always select by dragging a selection window so you don't separate the pieces. Then we've got this area at the back, again doing an unfold. And we have these separate pieces here. Might make sense to cut that part off later, we'll see. Another area there. And just tons and tons of these separate pieces. And mainly because it's such a boxy thing, it just resorts to puzzling from the get-go for this thing. Just rotating around, moving them in the correct position. Gonna skip ahead a little bit now and then. I want to stitch this thing together, so I'm using target weld to connect these parts up. And it's giving me some trouble. Doesn't really want to weld, so I'm going to figure out what's up here. And as you can see, there's actually an open edge there. So what I need to do is weld these together. It's always possible that when unwrapping you find some flaws in your little poly mesh, so just go back and fix it up. And as you can see, things get a bit jumbled. We're just going to quickly redo that flatten or planar projection and just use that. Now, some parts are intersecting here, so we want to move that around. Then this piece should be placed up there. U-shaped pieces are always annoying to unwrap, so we might want to go and add some smaller parts inside there. But this thing, all separate pieces again. See what we can do with that. Rotate it and try to fit it in there. And if we mirror this one, we can place it there. And the reason I'm scaling it, again, it's a part that sits at the back, so it won't be very visible. We can get away with it. Some more stacking for this simple boxy shape there. And we're nearly there, just crunching through all of these parts. Grab this one and put it down there. Yeah, this one should fit inside. I think we can even fit another one in there. So there you go. This one should fit as well. And after a few more tweaks, we've unwrapped this thing. So I'm going to collapse all this. Then with the symmetry, what I'm doing now is I'm using the smooth groups from UV shell function of the text tools. What this does is it makes sure that your smoothing groups are matching up perfectly with your UVs because these should be in sync. And I prefer the UVs to be the master, where the UVs determine what the smoothing groups are like. So that's how I've set it up. Then we're going to go for this next big part here. Again, quite a few areas that need to be cleaned up and moved around. So we're going to select this single stretch here. Same for that one. Just select these and do a quick unfold. If you forget a part, you can just redo it. Alright, so make sure to use weld on those so we don't get these ugly and unnecessary split vertices in the UVs. So it's selecting a little bit too much. Move this around. Don't really want to select that part. And let's see. I'll detach this area like that. And this thing is supposed to sit there, but we're not even going to be able to stitch it to it because we have this the attachment plate for some of the main hydraulics that sticks out. And then we have this inside area here. Same with that. We're going to do an unfold. And place these in logical positions. Again, trying to use the weld to get rid of the unnecessary splits in the UVs. And just grab these as well. Looks about right. Time for another unfold. That one should fit nicely in between of that place. So moving them around a bit. I've changed some of the stacking around slightly. Just move them because it doesn't always work, but again, it's just puzzling and seeing what works better. There's nothing really difficult about this part of unwrapping. Mainly, it can get slightly boring after a while. Just repeat the same thing all the time and puzzle. Especially this thing. It's a really interesting detail at the back, but wow, it really is generating a lot of UV islands. So align that one, grab these faces and try to move them close. And I'm going to do a planar with these parts so they share some UV space. That should be it. Then use an unfold. Put the unfold in that position. And again, do a planar. For a smaller piece like this that still has quite some bits to it, I'm trying to share some UV space a little bit more than on other parts perhaps, because you won't really notice that much. So the bottom area here, I'm going to select that, move it in. Just trying to go over it element per element. I think we've done the top parts almost. No, we have some more to do here. Grab that, move it to that position, and we have this thing at the top as well. Place that over there. And then we have some extra edges here, which we're just going to unfold, weld, and then place somewhere over there. So next up I'm going to do this part. I'm just trying to work my way down from the top to the bottom. The bottom part's already unwrapped, like one of those parts at the bottom, but other than that I'm just mainly trying to go top to bottom. So like that. I'm trying to separate these pieces a little bit based on their elements so they don't really mix up all that much. Because Flatten really doesn't pay attention to the physical placement of these things in 3D. Need that area, don't need this. Just going to work with that part. We'll do an unfold. Weld those. And then try and group these together a bit. Once I've selected those, I'm just going to do a grow, and it selects everything I need, pending these two. Then once I have that selected, I'm going to see what an unfold do. I'll probably be better off using cylindrical unwrap. So let's see. Yeah, that looks about right. That's something I can work with. Then for these parts at the side, planar projection, so that we can share some UV space. In this part, again, use an unfold. I'm trying to put some pieces inside there, so that works out nicely. They just fit in. And we have some more parts. I'm thinking now these parts, we'll probably fit them there. And another planar. These will fit nicely there. And the last thing we have, some faces that sit on the inside there. Move these up. And that's it for that block. So the next thing we have is this base plate and the upstanding brackets. I think we can work with these and just do a planar projection so that they share the same UV space. Place them there. Then for the inside, we can just do the same thing. Also have them share UV space. Not the same as the outside, but just stack them on top of each other with a planar. That thing down there. And making sure to select all these, and also, there we are. That one should fit there. Maybe we could put them in a better position. I think like moving these out and that one up gives me some more space. Place these things. Okay, so now the actual ripper itself, which is a bit broken up when you flatten it. So also this thing will be symmetrical since you'll never see two halves. So I'm just gonna wrap this one half. Might remove the symmetry on the back part, not sure. See what I can get away with. And then try to stack this. It's a bit of an awkward form to puzzle with, but it should work. Let's see what we can do with this one. A very annoying shape to work with. Something like that. That should fit over there. And there we go. That's it for the ripper. Color this one blue as well. And maybe go back in, and yeah, like I said, remove the mirroring for that piece of UVs. So just stitch them there so we don't see the obvious symmetrical mirroring, and same at the top. Okay, so next up we're going to do this hook at the bottom. Fairly simple part, shouldn't take too long. I think I might want to... These things would have to be unwrapped, would have to be unfolded. So there we go. Weld them, and that's about it. Grab those. Put these tiny things in that hole there because there's not really any other place. It's an efficient place to put them in. So that's it for the mounting plate. Then these sort of hydraulics control pieces. Doing a cylindrical on that piece. Oh, first a planar over there, move that up. You select those parts, then just do a cylindrical. Making sure to set that to local so we can rotate it to get rid of the seam. So that looks about right. Place that one down there. We can fit that in. And then for these bracket parts, giving me some trouble with the planar projection since it's rotated, so I'm going to rotate the projection gizmo, and those will all be sharing the same UV space. And these parts, do another cylindrical, weld them, and of course use text tools as a line to rotate them into a usable angle. That's it for all these faces. This part, which is the part of the big hydraulic pistons, this is going to be shared. It's going to be used 4 times actually, the UV space. It's used by it's used twice on the left and the right, and it's also used for the top ones. It's a fairly simple unwrap, and then for the main pistons themselves, they're mostly cylindrical, few boxy shapes, nothing too difficult. There's some crazy stacking on top of each other here. There we are. Those buttons at the bottom there for doing loop and rings with in UV space are actually pretty handy for selecting things when you're working with like mostly cylindrical kinds of shapes. So again, selecting these, and let's see. I actually want to split them up and flatten them out. Why do I want to do that? Well, that's because this thing is another one of those examples where I want to make sure that the UVs are split so the smoothing groups will play nice with the normals as well. Like that. Detach this and align it again. Select it. I want to move this seam, so I just detach and weld again. Put that into the correct position. And that one might fit in there, I'm not sure. And rotate this one using the align tools. Especially when you work with cylinders, like it tends to rotate into crazy orientations. So that's it for that part. Next part is this hydraulics attachment piece. Simple cylindrical shapes, nothing too difficult about these. That's the bottom side, so I'm going to make it smaller. And this thing here, let's see, I'm going to do an unfold on that. And then we're going to make use of that nice spline unwrapping thing. And what it has done is it's grabbed the top part that's attached to it, which I don't really want it to unwrap in such a way. So I'm going to manually select that one, do my own cylindrical unwrapping on it. Make sure the seam sits in an invisible place. And then do a planer for those, and then I can work with these things. Text Tools has a nice button to organize these as well. Does a fairly decent job to straighten them out. I think it's called straighten, the function. So that is it. Next up is this next big piston. This thing I want to do is cylindrical. I don't want this bent shape. Just a straight one is better to work with. I think that's the one at the back, so we want to stack those on top of each other. Move that one over. Then just do a planar on this face. You don't have to use the shape that the fold generated, which might be like rotate at a strange angle. If you just do a planar again with the average normals, it can end up with a more usable straight thing without having to select the edge and then use the text tools align function. Just try to use the solution that requires the least amount of clicks. So moving that up. I think I can fit this one in here. I might want to make it slightly smaller. And this one I can fit in there. And this one should fit below. Okay, let's see. This cylindrical part here. There we go, cylindrical. Should be good to work with. Put that one in that hole, perfect. It's a nice fit. Then we still have this thing left. And obviously my cylinder is rotated in a bit of a funny way. So I'm going to try manually get it aligned correctly. So there we are. Okay, so right now I've done every single part of the ripper at the back. We've skipped a few of the least important ones, and we're just going to get back to puzzling now. So this is all the stuff that the ripper has generated, this cloud of UV islands. And obviously the bigger parts have the bigger islands. So I'm going to try and fit these in first. And even if you place them on top of each other, you can still separate the selections by just selecting in the viewport. Like I said, make sure that you know how to that you know when to and how to select in viewport and in UV space, which is the most advantageous. They're doing a weld there. So these parts stick out a bit. I think it makes more sense to rotate them like that. And then fit this one over there. I'm going to cluster them a little bit to make it easier to find them again. And it makes more sense to move that one over and do some regrouping here. There we are. I try to do the biggest pieces first when I'm puzzling, because they're always the hardest to get rid of. The small ones you can always fit them in somewhere, but the big ones, they can become a little bit tricky to fit into your puzzle. Put that one in there. Let's see, can we place this one down here? Yeah, that should work. Put this one up slightly. Yeah, there we go. That should be okay. And some smaller bits here. I try to zoom out far sometimes to see if I'm not missing any pieces. I think it might have happened a few times where I've placed a piece so far out that I simply forgot about it. I forgot to unwrap it in there. Most of the time there were small parts, so the big parts are really hard to miss. That one at the bottom. We have this one tiny thing left, which should go somewhere over there. And that should be almost everything for the ripper. The parts that have a different color, and of course those splines, they're all not unwrapped yet. Those splines, we're going to get to those later. I'm just keeping them, postponing that a little bit. Change the color, and then have the splines appear again. Select those again. Now, let's see. Try and select those as well. There we are. Should be almost all of them. I'm going to create a selection set for these, because I want to be able to select them easily later when I'm going to do all the unwrap packing. So that's it for all this blue stuff, and we'll see what we can do with packing them together in the next video.